most important thing with your tamping is that it's straight. So if you tamp skew all your water channels towards the one side, it's going to affect our flavor, right? So you'll find a way of tamping that's comfortable for you, right? Your pressure is ultimately going to come from your palm. I once had somebody tell me you apply 30 kilograms of pressure. I do not have a built-in pressure gauge. I couldn't tell you what 30 kilograms is. What I would always say is that if you tamp too soft, you don't get rid of all the air pockets, your water's going to find those air pockets and channel through there. If you tamp too hard, you create too much resistance for your water to flow through that coffee. You've got to find a happy medium.
But if you're doing it by like pressure, can't you tamp on a scale?
You don't want to tamp on a scale. Your scales are limited in how much weight they can take. You're going to damage your scale.
Okay.
So for the most part, your coffee scales, 2 kg max.
Okay.
Right. So what we're going to do, it's all about the feel.
All right.
It's all about the feel. A good marker is baristas need to be able to do this all day, every day, without developing a wrist injury.
Okay.
Okay. So what we're going to do, pop it in there, and we're going to go straight down.
Okay.
Right. That is it.
So you don't do, I've always gone down in half a turn.
So
You don't do that.
half a turn, you can do that with practice. The risk with that turn is you might accidentally apply a bit more pressure with the turn and skew your tamping.
Yeah. Okay.
Right.
Okay.
So the pressure comes with the twist comes with experience.
Okay. So just straight down is fine.
Straight down is absolutely fine. I personally do a bit of a twist,
Yeah.
but that is because I know that my tamping is going to be straight. If you're twisting and it's straight, keep twisting. If it's skew, just practice going straight down.
Okay.
Right, so what we're going to do now is flush our group head, right? This does two things. Firstly, right, it just gets rid of that first hot burst of water, so temperature regulation. And the other thing is it gets rid of any coffee that might have been left over there from a previous shot. If it feels way too loose, most likely have one side hanging out. If it feels like you're really forcing it, it's way too tight, it's probably not in properly as well. So just duck your head down, have a look. And now what we're going to do is we are going to put 2 of these little glasses underneath each spot. Okay, so essentially we're going to split our double shot into 2 glasses. And when both of these glasses fill up to just above the ridge, that is our 60 ml mark.
Okay.
Plus minus for now, just while we're getting comfortable. Okay. So, I'm going to pop that in, nice and firm, pop it on, and there's my glasses. So, we want to put on our machine as soon as we put our quarter filter in. The reason for that is our group head is hot and wet, and we don't want that ground coffee up in contact with a hot, wet group head for an extended period of time without our water running through. Essentially, the coffee's going to start to brew in there already. So as soon as our quarter filter's in, we're going to switch on.
How long should that take?
We are going to be looking at between about 25 and 35 seconds.
Is that like a
Blanket
universal time, or is that just something that you guys have decided?
It's a good guide.
Okay.
It's a good guide. Playing around within that coffee dependence and how much coffee you use going in is a cool thing to do as well. We'll chat about that.
Okay.
For now, I just want you guys to get nice and comfortable in the space. Probably a bit different to your home setup as well. So just get nice and comfortable, and then we'll get into some espresso theory and go a little bit more in depth. So that's kind of our marker where that is. So for now, we're just going to weigh our 20 grams in, apply some pressure, take it over to our machine, pop 2 little glasses, try and time as straight as possible. For now, we're not going to taste. We're going to start to taste once we get to adjusting our grinders. It's not going to taste any good yet. Get there. So what we're going to do is take out a porta filter, flush that group head, and then we're going to take this over to our knock box. We are going to knock along the edges of this basket on that silicone bar over there. There we go. That comes straight out. Right? There's our puck. It's called because it looks like a hockey puck. Right? And we are just going to use this cloth that's under the grinder. Clean and dry porta filter. That's what we are looking for. Okay. So, for our purposes, sorry, it's quite loud up here. For our purposes, what we're going to do, start off with about half a jug of milk, and then whichever hand is your strongest, the hand that you're going to hold your jug in, right? So, quick purge. For me, left-handed, but I steam with my right hand. Right? Is what it is. And then for me, 3 fingers through there, 1 underneath for stability. Depending on the size of your hand, it doesn't really matter. You can put all of them through. As long as your knuckles aren't up against the jug, so your knuckles will burn really fast. Okay, so nice and firm with facing this direction, so I can get a nice angle with my steam on. The better the angle of your steam on, the better you're going to be able to swirl that more.
So you're swirling it while you are steaming it?
Right.
Oh,
it's going to
okay.
happen automatically if the angle of your steam on is correct.
Okay.
You're not going to have to turn your jug around,
Okay.
right? It'll happen just with airflow. So that swirl is super important. My first step when I'm steaming,
Move the jug.
you move the jug, okay? We're going to learn how to not do that today. Steaming can be very easy, right? The jug does all the work for you, right? If you let it. So our first step is going to be to increase the volume of milk in our jug. We call that stretching, adding air to it. So the way we add air to our milk is by having the tip of the steam wand where those jets are on the surface of the milk. So when I start off, I'm going to start off with it covered so that when I switch on my steam wand, it doesn't immediately start to blow bubbles into our milk. I want a little bit of control. So as soon as I switch on my steam wand, I'm going to lower my jug slightly, and then that will bring the tip of the steam wand onto the surface of the milk. Just that I'm in control when that stretching starts. When that happens, you'll start to hear like a paper tearing sound, like a kind of sound. There's a good sound, and you're introducing air. Let this be your measure, right? Let's start with half a jug, and then we're going to stretch to about 3/4. Now, if we stretch to 3/4, we're still going to have space in our jug for a really good swirl. If you stretch too much, you don't have enough space for that swirl, and that swirl is the thing that's going to combine all of your bubbles and your milk to give you a uniform, smooth, silky liquid. Okay, so the way that you stretch, like I said, is to start to lower your jug. And every time the volume increases in your jug, it's going to cover the tip of that steam wand again. So keep lowering your jug to keep the tip of the steam wand on the surface of the milk until we reach 3/4 in the jug. At 3/4, we're going to lift up our jug slightly just to cover that tip of that steam wand again in our stretch. So we don't stretch any further than that. Now, I want the tip of my steam wand to be close to the side of the jug, right? Close to the side. And that's where I'm going to stay the entire time I'm steaming. All I'm going to move is my jug by lowering it slightly to stretch, and then a slight raise up just to end that stretch. And then, if that's where I leave my steam wand, that swirl will happen all on its own in the jug. And I'm just going to let that swirl until I reach, hopefully, about 65 degrees Celsius. Now, at 65, that is kind of the sweet spot with milk. So at 65, you can take a sip of that milk immediately without getting your tongue or your mouth, but at the same time, you're not left with a cold cup of coffee at the end of your cup. If you put your milk, thermometer, I'll grab them out the cupboard now. If you put your milk much above 70 degrees, right, sort of hit over there, you get that kind of microwave milk smell and taste. That's essentially burnt milk. So unless somebody specifically asks for a really hot coffee, we try to stay as far away from that as we can. So generally about 65. Personal preference wise, I prefer milk that's about 55, but that I wouldn't serve at that temperature, just in case it's too cold for somebody else. 65 degrees is that sweet. So again, quick purge, right? Out comes my steam wand, and close to the side of the jug, that's where I'm going to stay. It might be easier for you guys to find your placement, right, by using the spout as a guide, just to pop it in there, right? And then I'm going to start, I lean back slightly so I can see what's going on in the jug. If I have it like this or leaning forward, I can't tell you what's going on in there. Alright, so switch on, there's my stretch. Alright, stretching to about 3/4 and then just lifting up slightly. That swirl happens completely by itself just because of the angle of that steam on. Right, and I'm ready. And I just feel the smooth, silky, glossy milk.
Yeah, beautiful.
Okay, that is what we are going to practice, and then we're going to, after a couple of these, we're going to start to pour them into some espresso with coffees. Okay. So I'll go there.
That's fine.
Yeah. And let's go. There we go. We'll get a good swirl in there. And it's always going to be a tiny bit bubblier, unfortunately,
Yeah.
than what full cream is.
Yeah.
But there we go. That is as close as we are going to get. Still got a little bit of a gloss to it,
Right.
which is good. Still going to pour really nicely.
Yeah.
You see that I did quite a bit less stretch here
Yeah.
than what I did with that full cream, and it still bulked up a fair amount, which is what I didn't account for in that small jug, is how quickly it bulks up. Right? That is, I think, as good as we're going to get our almond to look. Still a little bit of gloss, still hitting our nice temperature, 65 degrees.